Something small. If it had a bigger block.
You may be accustomed to some stars. It's 7 hours.
Yeah.
Do you want to sit on the side or you're okay then? Sean. I can sit there.
No. Sit right where you are.
Here, that chair is not. Pastor Purdy, can you sit here, please?
I do cohesive yet too well. Why do you want to sit here and look at myself? I don't like my image, so you can turn it to you. Sean, how are you? Yeah, I pointed to Sean. Sean, see. If you had a chair that you could put that fan on, because it's that's the color that we go. You need to read. You don't want chair now. Okay. I literally think you could probably get one. Huh?
I was saying probably get one for the block. This?
This is gonna block your visual.
Well, if somebody sits there, I don't want to take
Okay.
I can sit there, 6 feet, 3.5.
Well, yeah,
I can
sure,
block
yeah.
my visual.
That's right.
We'll adjust it because we're actually getting our own recording from it. So we will adjust it as you need, okay? All right. Because right now it will block whoever is sitting here.
Instructions. I was told to sit here. Not something I normally do. I don't take orders except from my wife. She gives me permission to sit. I take it this is a Bluetooth. I'm learning, I have phones that are so smart, they do their own spelling. Sometimes they don't spell right as smart as they are.
One smarter than people?
AI? A frightening concept. Very frightening concept, very concerning. But how come you put me here? I'm very strategic.
It's going to take a photo shot.
Yeah.
What do Oh, nice.
Okay, I'm gonna do it on the nation, we didn't get that,
But I went for history with you. I went to the history with
Yeah,
her.
you didn't say, oh, nice. You was like, I know last day computation.
It just tells you what relationship we had. I never tell her that. That's you are, sir. Sorry?
No.
Starcom. I have to be careful how I respond because I've already been ridiculed for responding particularly. You get some good testing. I'm doing a lot of what I'm doing for your benefit.
Oh, this way.
And designation you can understand. The advocate.
You seem surprised.
Yes, I am. I am surprised. Do you know I'm the reason that you have a tabloid newspaper today? You know that? You remember when I was their circulation manager? And myself and Grosvenor fell out? Remember that? Yeah, I already. You just do some sound testing.
Oh, is that finished?
You're good, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm here now. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I remember when the advocate was a big deal.
Can you go ahead?
Nobody can read it on the bus. And I recommended a tabloid and that nearly cost me my job. But I resigned. I didn't fire. Gross. That's
Tissue.
Yes, very good.
Let you go first as a lady.
No.
We believe. I believe
No,
in sugar.
I'm gender neutral. Whichever one comes first.
Yeah, no. No, the women's and neutral are supposed to be the ones that are not opening the door.
Ready? All right, good morning, all. Thank you, firstly, for being here. Thank you for your patience. Want to welcome all the media hosts that are represented here this morning. Welcome to Barbados Advocate. Welcome to Nation News. Welcome to Barbados Today. This is Starcom and CBC. Welcome to all media hosts. Thank you for coming to this press conference this morning that's being hosted by the Watch Out My Children movement. Just a little bit on who Watch Out My Children is. Watch Out My Children is a movement consisting of parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, other members of family with a mission to safeguard and protect the development and the future of the nation's children against threats to values and faith while preserving the traditional family unit of one mother. As a movement, we are gravely concerned about the content and the structure of the Child Protection Bill, which appears to reduce the rights of the Barbadian parents. And we consider this an urgent matter that needs addressing, hence the invitation of the media and what will be the announcement of a march on Saturday as well as a rally. This morning, joining me here at the head table, we have Ms. Felicia Dujon. We have, should I say, Doctor?
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, okay. We have Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and we have Ms. Marcia Weeks. My name is Sean Carter. I'm your moderator this morning. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Ferdinand Nichols to say a few words as it relates to what we are, some of our concerns and what we will be addressing at the rally on Saturday. So over to you, Dr.
Thank you
Nichols.
very much, Sean. First of all, let me say that I'm here as a grandparent. Shift. Okay. Let me say that I'm here as a grandparent primarily and not in any professional capacity. As a result of the number of things that we've seen showing themselves up in the Barbadian society, very often in very subtle manners, in very subtle language, and in very underlying perspectives. And from where I sit, I have been following very closely what's happening on the international arena, recognizing that much of what is stated to or slated to become a part of our environment in Barbados is really being determined by external forces. There are times I sit and I ponder how can we in Barbados ever come up with these ideas because they don't reflect anything about the morals and values of our country at all. I'm mindful of the fact that much of what we are seeing presented to us is a US, UN, EU driven agenda. And I want to be very clear on this. I know sometimes people will expect us to focus in probably on a smaller grouping or something of that nature, but I want to get us to understand that Barbados is a part of a global environment and that much is happening in the global environment that is driving the positions not only of Barbados but the entire Caribbean and may I say the entire world. And I am confident of the fact that sitting behind that undoubtedly is the United States. This is evident in positions to do with countries such as Tanzania, Malawi, Uganda. I wonder why they don't engage some of the aspects with Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia. But they don't because they know exactly what the response of those countries are going to be. I'm also mindful of the fact we used to have an old saying in Barbados: "He who pays the piper plays the tune." And we have a lot being paid where our country is concerned, and the tune is being called by someone else. And I make no apologies for saying this. We have entered into some significant funding agreements with the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund sets conditions for your loans and for your funding. America has made it very clear in a UN meeting with heads of state that will be driven by a particular agenda of the US. And several of the African countries hesitated to stand up because their ambassadors were afraid of the fact that if they did, that funding would be under threat. That's why, as I sit here this morning, I have a deep concern about the future of our children and what our children are going to be attempted to engage in the days to come. And let me just say, not our children, but our grandchildren. Let me say our grandchildren and maybe our great grandchildren. That's technology for you, frankly. I thought so. I hope after this I'll be able to actually get into America. But I sit here, like I said, as a grandparent because when I observe by brief overview of the bill, I see that there's some very significant threats to parents and by extension to guardians, of which I would be one, a grandparent. So having said that, I will turn back to Sean. And Sean, let you take it on from here.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nichols. Yeah, sure. Thank you for speaking on behalf of the parents and more so the grandparents, because we believe that the not only the bill but our children is something that is dear to all of us. So whether you're a parent, you're a grandparent, as I said before, an aunt, an uncle, it's everybody. There's the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And that is, even though we have a lot more what we call neighborhoods and not communities where it's close knit and are more relational, that is what is needed for our children, for the next generation. I think, in my opinion, just to piggyback a little bit on something that you said there, I think why we are seeing a lot of these agendas being pushed by the Caribbean and the African nations is because it's linked to international funding. The reason why we're not seeing some of these things being pushed in other parts of the world, because other parts of the world don't need the funding that we need. And with receiving the funding comes conditions that we as a people and as a nation we have to be very cognizant of. We got to make sure that our values and our children are not being disadvantaged as a result of receiving that funding from international agencies. Um, Having said that, I would like to turn over shortly to Ms. Felicia Dujon. Um, Felicia is a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. She has been a parental rights activist for a while, for as long as I have known her. I would have heard her on the Sunday program on Grassat Sundays, seen various articles in the newspaper, even before this bill was passed. And she was part of the team that came out of the Watch Out My Children movement as well, that would have met with the Constitutional Reform Committee to address this same topic of parental rights being included in the new constitution. So again, without further ado, I turn over now to Ms. Felicia Dujon.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for meeting with us. Of course, it's a very, I would say in this part right now, we're in a dilemma, what we'd call a social dilemma, where we have to choose between policies that may affect the lives of children. And so I know a lot of people in the society, I know a lot of parents, a lot of even citizens who don't have children, a little bit concerned about what is being displayed in the public space regarding the Child Protection Bill, regarding the National Nutrition Bill. So it's very important that we understand what is happening. And for us really is to have the composition, to have a dialogue on what the Child Protection Bill is all about. So a lot of discussions have been played out. But there are two things I want us to keep in mind. In October 2020, we saw a breach in the rights of children, for children's rights with the IDB survey, and of course, parental rights. In December 2020, we saw another alarming concern where Section 12 of the Sexual Offences Act was removed. And within that section, it also spoke about the indecent exposure to minors. Now, if this act has been removed, nothing really has replaced it. We were waiting the Attorney General to speak on that issue. He told us that he would return with the written document or the written judgment from the judge. We have not heard anything, and we're actually in June. Parental rights are fundamental rights. Parental right does not take into consideration your social, political, religious, moral, or even in sometimes personal views. Parental rights are rights that are legal and universal. It means that you have not only the responsibility for the caretaking of the children, but also to provide the guidance to them, whether it's educational guidance, whether it's in terms of what kind of structure, what kind of person that they would be. So in this bill in particular, as I said before, there is quite a number of problematic, or what we see a dilemma between the state and parental rights. I have highlighted the areas that the government needs to significantly review, because what it does not take in consideration parental rights. In some cases, it gives the state more authority over parents than parents themselves. And so we have to be very mindful. And the question is, I'm urging parents, if you have not looked at the Child Protection Bill, please do so. Look at Section 3. Look at Section 7 when it speaks of the best interest of the child. This primarily tells you that you as the parent do not have, it may come to the point where the state will determine what is in the best interest of the child. That should be your responsibility and your right as a parent. So what the government is doing currently is to show that there is no dichotomy, or there's no friction between parental rights and children's rights. But within this bill, there are more provisions, which is another matter that we need to look at. So yes, we understand in terms of a very severe abuse of children, physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. We understand that because we are all sensitive beings and we are all moral beings, and we understand when children are being abused. However, there are more provisions which means that the government can take you to task for additional provisions within that bill that you have not recognized as yet. So parents, because the law is being drafted, it is important that you know your right. If you do not know your right, it means that when this bill is enacted, it means that it will be very easy for the state to step in if your right or the child's rights has been infringed by the parent. So what the state is saying right now, that parents that do not abuse children should not worry too much. But I am going to tell you, this is misinformation. This is untruthful. Because what it also means that in the bill, it defines a child as anyone under the age of 18. So if a child comes to you and say, well, mom, I think that perhaps I need a breast reduction or increase or whatever that it is, and the child is 16 or 17, what are you going to say? It is in the best interest of the child. And the state does not, the only way the state defines the best interest of the child is what the state defines it as or what the child defines it as. What about the parents? What about the parents' consultations or consent? We do not want to dilute the conversation. This is not a political issue. We're dealing with policies. This is a policy, and I want persons to understand the difference between political issues and policies that have been implemented by politicians. And when politicians draft certain types of legislation, we as citizens need to ensure that our rights are not infringed upon, your constitutional rights are not infringed upon, that you have that right to speak and critique the government. You have the right to tell the government, well, I believe my right has been infringed upon here, and I think you should do something about it. I think we need to be consulted. We're not saying that the bill is not required or it's not necessary. It is necessary because we need to protect our children. By all means, even to some parents that may not understand children's rights. But when you are going to do so to violate the constitutional rights of parents, I believe every citizen, every Barbadian, everyone living in this country have the right to criticize the government. And I just want to add something very, very briefly, if you may. I saw an article where the prime minister is making certain claims that the media is not doing it. The media is doing the job. They have been doing the job. They have been ensuring that parents get the kinds of information from both sides to see what is happening, to ensure that we pass bills that are constitutional, that are legal, that are moral, and of course, that deeps very deep into our social consciousness. We cannot pass laws that will harm both parental rights and children's rights in the next 5 or 10 years. We have to be very vigilant of that. So the mere fact that the Minister for People Empowerment and Elderly Affairs calls persons who criticize the bill as being dangerous, there are times you need to be dangerous. We are not saying we're going to be violent in any way. We are not saying that we're going to do things that is illegal and unconstitutional, but we will be dangerous when we have to speak the truth and let every parent know what their rights are. You have a right as a parent for the state not to infringe on your family affairs, your home. So when the state is making laws, when they are making laws or providing provisions for you that will guide your conduct and how you groom your children, how you raise your children, how you nurture your children, it is your right to stand up and say, listen, I think you're taking it a little too far now. You're infringing on my parental rights. So it's very important that we are dealing primarily with policies. We are showing you where the evidence is, that they are very much inconsistencies, contradictions, and a lot of arbitrary language in this bill that needs to be addressed, that needs to be reviewed. And I'm very thankful that the minister recognized that the bill needs to be revised and it has to be taken back to the drawing board so that parental rights are not eroded. That is very important. It is critical because one thing that we know, the state only has the right to intervene in your household if you commit an offense. The state only has a right to infringe on your freedom and liberty and expression and consciousness if you are going to harm someone. But the way that this law or this bill has been drafted, it preempts the parents as criminals.
Yeah.
And then you have to go and defend yourself in case somebody reports you. And it's not only for parents, teachers, aunties, uncles, anyone that has access or you are in the environment of children. We have to be very mindful of this bill. There are various areas that we have already highlighted, and we believe as a government that believes in inclusionness, a government that has 30 seats in parliament, that you ought to listen to the voices of the people.
Yes.
And if we are saying that parental rights are fundamental with a right that has to do with children, I am going to say this finally, that parents are the best interpreters of the law when it comes to the children. The parents have the right to protect the children from anyone, including the state. And we saw what happened in October last year when that survey was given to children without parental consent. So when these things do happen in the future, how are we going to protect our children? If you're going to pass a bill months later to ensure that parents do not have any say when it comes to parental rights or children's rights, we have to remain vigilant of those things. And so again, we're saying this is not a political issue. We are dealing with policies that should be guided by moral, social understanding of who we are as Barbadians. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you for so passionately and accurately detailing that this bill has not come to us in a vacuum. There's a history of the IDB experience where parents were totally left out of the loop. There was no consultation with parents before the test happened in October. We knew that that was not the first test. It would have happened before. There's evidence of that. As she alluded to, later in the year, there was also the sexual offenses bill that was adjusted. If you look at Section 12, again, it's important for parents not to just go by hearsay. What we are saying, what anybody is saying on a calling program, but to actually read and research the information for yourself. So right now, with Section 12 being removed, there's no protection for children in Barbados as far as the sexual act is concerned, and that is of grave concern. Like I say, it's not happening in a vacuum. This is the background and the backdrop of which why we have the concerns that we have, and we are expressing the need for parental rights to be included not only in this child protection bill, but also in the constitution, the new constitution of Barbados. At this time, we turn over to our last speaker, which is Mrs. Marcia Weeks. Over to you, Marcia.
Thanks, Sean. And
Pass the focus down.
okay. Good morning again to everyone. It's great to see you all here. I want to start with a quote from Maya Angelou, and I'm going to read the quote. It says, "When you do nothing, you feel overwhelmed and powerless. But when you get involved, you feel a sense of hope and accomplishment that comes from knowing you are working to make things better." And really, that is the premise of our march and rally on Saturday. We are getting involved. There is something that is of concern to us. All of us as parents, we are concerned. There's no other motivation, but that it is of concern to us. We saw, and I'm going to underscore what was said before about the IDB test. And why that is important is because there is a distrust. There is anxiety when it comes on to our children and some of the state and policies. Right now, I don't think there's a parent in this country whose eyes are not wide open right now. They are just very, very, very concerned. And so when we also look at what happened with GIS, the government industrial schools, where we were told, remember, that there's no abuse there, until the parents, the women in this country who bore children start to, speak up. And they said, yes, there was abuse. And then they went back and they came back and said there was abuse. So what I'm saying is that there is a reason. All of this is not happening in a vacuum. There's a history to it. There's a history to the distrust. There's a history to the anxiety. There's a history to the fear. And that is what's what's happening on Saturday. All of the parents are coming together and to make a resounding sound and hoping that, it will be heard that, listen, these are our children and we are concerned. When we look at the bill that's drawn up, we realize that our rights as parents, that it's being diminished. And that is what is concerning us. And this is very, very important. I want to say to parents that I know sometimes, within our country, people feel as though they will be victimized if they speak out. They feel, people will message me, I want to come, but, they're a little scared to come out. Let me say to you this, that there is a war on. There is a war on for our children. And because it is about children, for me, all fear has to go. I was the person who went out on the street by myself. On the street, right there at near Harrison College. I was on the road there.
Road.
What's the name of the road? Constitution Road, right? I might direct it to Kingston. Constitution Road. By myself. And why did I do that? I never imagined in my years that I would stand on a roadside with a sign by myself. Me? But because it involved children and I saw where their rights were infringed on, I saw where the parents' rights were infringed on, and I saw the possibility of where this could lead us. Then I just, all the fear went and I went. I was nervous standing there. I looked as though I was brave, but I was nervous. And so I want to say to parents, come out, be fearful, but come out. It's okay to feel a little fear, but come out. It is your right. You have a right. All all the permits will be in place. We've always done that. I've just gotten off the phone with the police this morning. We are making sure nothing is going to happen to you. We will have all of our permits there. The police is going to be there. Everything, you're going to be safe. It's fine. It's going to be a peaceful environment. It's a family environment, actually. You could bring your children because this is about children. The environment is a full family environment. And we're going to come out and we're going to speak together. We're sending one resounding message with one voice to the government. And we're saying to you that it is very important that you go back to the drawing board and you look at this bill. And I saw something in the papers that they are doing this. But, we've recognized, again, through the with the GIS issue, that when we were told that the government looked at the situation and there was no abuse and we did nothing, right? And then we wouldn't be at the place where we are now, where the work was closed down. But many of us continue the advocacy. Someone said that to me last night. I said, why are you bothering? The government is going to look into it. Really, we're going to continue. We're not going to stop. And I want parents, I want grandparents, aunties, uncles, come out on Saturday. Don't be afraid, right? Everything you're legally covered and you're covered, man, spiritually. Don't worry about anything. This is about our children. And once it's about our children, nobody going to shut us up. All right, you understand? Nobody is going to shut us up. We are concerned. We see things happening on the international front. And we are saying, listen, if we don't, put a pause here, the possibility is there. The possibility is there. And so that's why we are coming out. Please come out. It's at 10 o'clock. And we're going to gather at Kensington Oval. Actually, we've asked permission from Massy to use their car park. We're waiting on that, as we did the last time. And we're going to gather there. And then from there, we're going to Independence Square. And in Independence Square, we have some speakers and we have some artists as well. And we are just going to do a rally there around our cause in Independence Square. And as I said, it's a peaceful protest, peaceful march, peaceful rally. And we want to send a message loud and clear, very loud and clear. So those of us who think it's a dangerous thing that we're doing or whatever adjectives they would like to use to describe what is happening, want to send a very, very, very clear message. And the message is this: until we are satisfied, there will be no peace in this country. There is no peace. You understand? This is not a one protest, and this is not a one march. And when I say there's no peace, I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about, us burning down the city. I'm saying to you that as parents, we are not going to roll over
That's right.
and let this happen. We are not going to roll over without this being changed. There is no peace in here. None. You're going to hear protest after protest by different groups because it mattered to us. This is not a political thing. This is something that you feel it in your womb as a mother. Okay? And this is why when things, they say, oh, well, the media is not doing their job, and the media, we thank God for the media. We thank God for the media that we could write, and the media is printing it. Or you're here today. We need the media. We have there are 30 seats in government. 30. We have got to be a watchdog, and that's why Watch Out My Children, the parents that have come together, and not just us. The last thing I say, not just us, but those from the Caribbean. On Thursday, we have persons from Trinidad, from Bahamas, Jamaica, from Grenada. They are coming together on a Zoom meeting. And what are they coming to do? I can send it to the media. They're saying, come and let us support Barbados. That's what's happening. Because they are over there and they're worried too. Their parents over there and they're worried too. So it's not just us who are worried. People are over there and they're worried too. Yeah? So it is a full movement. On Sunday, so we have the march on Saturday. And on Sunday, we have a training here. And we have again a lawyer from Trinidad who is going to be speaking to us about alternative education, sex education models then. So we're not just attacking it from from one angle, but we're looking at it from different angles, okay? So again, parents, come out. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's okay. I'm sure they call Martin Luther King dangerous, and I'm sure they call they call all these people dangerous. Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and all these people dangerous. It's okay. Come out. We're not worried about the labels, and we're not worried about anything. We are going out, and we're going out strong. Thank you.
Yes. Right.
Thank you, Marcia. Very well, very, very well said. Again,
Media has any question?
right, okay. Again, this is not the first march. It's not the first rally. Back in October, when we had the IDB fiasco, we took to the streets. We had a march. In December of last year, we had a rally. We had even had a lawyer presenting at that rally, where she went into detail. She actually read from the Data Protection Act to show the laws that were breached as it relates to data protection, and the laws that were breached even as it relates to parental rights. So for persons who might have thought that it would have been just a fly-by-night thing with Watch Out My Children, as Marcia has said, the group has grown. It is growing. It's now not just a local movement, but it's now a regional movement with Trinidad, Bahamas, Grenada, and even Guyana now being involved in the Watch Out My Children movement. Because if some of the nonsense that we're hearing that it is political, if it was indeed political, then why would Trinidad get involved? Why would persons from Bahamas get involved?
That's right.
There are different
It's regional.
political motivations for other people in other territories. This is about our children. Each person that you have heard spoken this morning, each person that you see here sitting at this table, we are all parents. And Dr. Nichols is a grandparent as well, not just a parent. So we are deeply involved and entrenched in the lives of our children. And for us, again, not just our biological children, but I can say on behalf of every member at this table, we have been given to the children of this nation, not just our biological children. At this time, before I wrap up, I would just like to open the floor in case there's any questions that you would like answered.
If I can just add, the matter with the IDB survey and the Ministry of Education, we notice in the media that parents are taking the matter to court. We have three parents that have come forward. And I just want to remind the public Every citizen has the right to stand on their own rights. When your rights are violated, you have the right to stand. So I saw some claims where persons are saying that the parents may be using their children for monetary firm. It's not about that. It's about justice.
Yeah.
And once a harm has been done, everyone understand what justice is. So it's very important that when we see people trying to get atonement for the harm that is wrong, that we support them. We wish more parents came out because
That's right.
remember when
That's right.
IDB, the situation with the survey came out, we only heard about it. We only heard that children were affected, that families were affected. And a lot of parents did want to come out, but again, people did not want to be victimized. We live in a very small society, so we need to provide the support. So you could imagine when something of that magnitude happened, could you imagine one parent's rights being violated with this new bill and how that parent has to fight on their own?
Right.
We have to stand up for each other.
Yes.
We have to stand up again with each other when we see any type of government that wants to overarch its authority. So in the case of the IDB, it's not a matter of money or a monetary funds, but about atonement and about justice. If the state did any harm and the court proves that it did a harm, then they have every responsibility to pay and make atonement for that. So I just wanted to add that as well, because it's important that we understand that. And we see that quite a lot in society. When your employer do something wrong and you believe that they have violated your employment rights, what do? You take them to task. When someone harms you in your neighborhood or someone violates you, what do? You take them to task. So how come when the state violates you, you don't want to do the same thing? They're still going to give you, they still have to give you bread. They still have to make sure that you have the buses. But when they violate your rights, this is why we have the judicial system. This is why we have laws. And the laws are not only there for us, it's also there for the state as well. So it's important that when they violate rights, that we encourage people to come forward. We encourage people to stand up and ensure that justice is done in that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. Any questions from the media?
One question from me. Apart from the rally, have y'all sent any correspondence to government outlining your concerns or what changes you would like to see in this child protection bill?
But I know that Felicia might be better able to speak to this, but I just want to say that this has been a journey that we've been on, and one of the things that we did, even before the child protection bill came about, there was a petition that was sent out, and we created it on parental rights, which was submitted to the Constitution Reform Committee, and we've had a meeting with the Constitutional Reform Committee. So this is not something fly by night. It is something that, and we've received over 4,000 signatures, and still waiting on others to sign. We would love to receive some more signatures on that, but it's with them, and they responded and called us to a meeting concerning that. So we're watching that as well, right? Concerning the bill, I'll let Felicia speak on that. If there, yeah, I don't know.
In regards to the child protection bill, we have to give their government the benefit of the doubt. They told us that they will be taking it to the select committee, and so we have to wait until that is done. There's a process. So once that is done, of course, we were also told they will have more consultation towards the bill because we brought some attention to it. And so once that is done, we await to see what the new bill looks like. And if again, this is where we come in as advocates. So once the bill, we are hoping the bill again, it will be in the public domain and it will give us the opportunity again to review it. Listen, we have to go for this bill to ensure that it is accurate.
Correct.
There's no anomalies, there's no contradictions, and there's no arbitrary language or subjective language. So it will take us, if it has to take us 5 years, it will take us 5 years, but we have to ensure that whatever law that is, because once it's law, it's law.
Correct.
It's very difficult to repeal a law. And so what we will be doing will be awaiting the government. They have made a promise that it will go to the select committees, that it could be reviewed. So once that is done, then we can review it again. But we have been given our recommendations in the public. We have been doing it in various forums for the media, for various areas. And of course, we have sent in our proposal for parental rights to be included in the new constitution, which should be slated for September. So we're hoping that the government says what it would be doing and the promise will be kept, that our views and positions will be captured in that new constitution, because the constitution is where our voices are heard. This is where our protection from the state comes in as well.
Yeah.
And so we're looking forward to that as well.
If I could just add
Go
one
ahead,
more
Massy.
thing, that we have also invited members of the government to the march, because we're going to have a lot of speakers. So they have been
Yes,
written to,
and
they've
the
been
opposition-
invited, the opposition is
Opposition
invited,
parties are invited.
all the parties, because this is something about our children, about our nation, you know. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to have a rapport with them at the march. Come and march with us, your parents. There are people in the government, MPs who are parents, and I'm sure they're concerned about it, right? So we've invited them on a serious note, because it's not this is not it's not anything political. We want them all there. Okay?
Let me add that, this just goes to show us that we continue to get the cart before the horse. If you're talking about consultations, you should have discussed this with the people first. This is what a republic is. We were told we became a republic, I think it was last year, November the 30th, if my mind serves me correctly. And the definition of a republic is by the people, for the people, of the people, not by the government, of the government, for the government. That's not a republic. That's a dictatorship. And we, therefore, if you're going to make an amendment to anything that is going to have such a far-reaching implication and impact on a social level, you should have consulted with the people first, not after. And furthermore, not just the parents, the PTAs should have been brought into this, the teachers should have been brought in. And don't talk to me about the consultations the government had with the teachers about a week ago. That's a joke. Where you walk into a consultation and find something already prepared for you to as it were, finger stamp is what they say, rubber stamp it. No, you should have discussed it first with the teachers as to what you are considering. This is how you operate. You see, the old-time way of doing things is gone. If government hasn't woken up to that yet, AI is with us. Internet is with us. People no longer need the government to get information. We are aware of what is going on in the world around us. We know what President Biden is saying. We know what the US is saying. We know what the European Union is saying. We know what the World Economic Forum is saying concerning our children and the implementation of certain agendas where the World Economic Forum is concerned. We know. So don't come to us with this rubbish. I was offended, and I'm not going to say take an offense because I don't take offenses, but I was offended to hear the minister speak of people who engaged the matter last week as liars. I know parents from that specific school who saw the signs and who took pictures of the signs and who sent them to me. So don't insult the intelligence of our people and come to them in the most disingenuous manner in the way you speak as though you're educating children. We are big adults. Speak to us in an amicable manner, and we will have a discussion with you. But don't come to us as though we're idiots. This country is far more informed, and while I'm speaking to you, I'm receiving messages here from my children. While I'm talking to you, and they're clear on the matter. Dad, this is a UN matter. The government has to do as they are told. You see, nobody wants to confront the leadership of our country with these things. But we are not afraid to do that. And I'm not dealing with this from political matter. This is not a political matter. This is a matter to do with the future of our country. And when you and I are dead and long gone, our grandchildren are going to have to deal with this thing that we're leaving. So we need to fix it now. And you do that through consultation. If it's a republic of the people, for the people, by the people. Meet with us. Tell us what you propose. Hear the voices of the people in the country. And I'm not talking about political lackeys. I'm talking about where constituency meetings are being held. If you're not comfortable with the matter, attend the meeting and voice your opposition to it. You have a right to do so, and nobody has a right to shut you up, even in that meeting. So we need to understand it's not even because sometimes I think I'm pretty well known in the country as a religious leader, but I'm not sitting here as a religious leader or political anything. I'm sitting here as a grandparent. And I have 6 beautiful grandchildren who I will not tolerate the rubbish that I'm seeing being proposed to come into existence during my lifetime. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. Any further questions before we wrap up? All right. Or just wanted to be clear that our position is we love our children. We will do whatever it takes to protect our children. We are willing to take a stand as we have done in the past for our children. We will do it now. We will do it in the future. We will not back down. That's a clear message that we are sending to whoever is hearing our voices. And we are encouraging all parents to join with us, take a stand, join the fight. Thank you for sacrificing your time. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we hope that not only the parents, but as was said, members of the government, members of political parties,
Religious leaders,
religious organizations straight across the board, whether it's Muslim, Rastafarian, Christian, we're inviting, once you have a love for the children of this nation, we're inviting you, we're inviting the press again to join us on Saturday morning. As Marcia said before, we will be gathering in Kensington on Fontibel. Once we get permission from Massy, it will be there in Kensington Mall, Car Park. That's where we will assemble. If you don't have one of the rally t-shirts, we're asking you to wear white. We'll be there for 10 a.m. We'll be leaving there at 10 a.m. sharp. So we're not gathering there for 10. We're leaving that location at 10. So we'll be there probably from 8 o'clock. We will be, because we want to make sure that everything is done in decency and in order. The other thing is there will be marshals that will be giving instructions to persons to make sure that everything is done, like I said, in decency and in order. Apart from the marshals, the police service will be there. So we are asking persons to just abide by the instructions that come from both the marshals, from the Watch Out My Children team, as well as the police officers that are there. We will be moving from Kensington Car Park up Fontibel, passing Cheapside, passing the market, passing that bus terminal that is down there, passing the post office. We'll be making our way past City Center Mall, St. Mary's Church. We'll be going on to Broad Street, and then from Broad Street, we'll be going all the way around to Bay Street, then back to Independence Square. That's the route that we'll be having. So, like I say, it's two. What we've done this time around is the 2 events that we've had in the past, where initially we had the march, and then in December we had the rally in Independence Square. We've now merged both events into one. So there will be the march first, and then the rally. As Marcia said again, we will have speakers dealing with different topics. The idea here is to educate the masses in Barbados as to the bill, educate parents as to their rights. So if you are not sure, you've heard about this child protection bill, you're not familiar with it, you haven't read it, this is the perfect time to come out and hear more as to what the details and the facts are, and what our concerns are, and what your concerns should be as well as parents. So again, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday morning. Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
technology working.
I just want a picture and very sister and talking with you. So I want to take a picture and very sister and talking with you.
Yeah, you can go ahead.